Hello and how you doing, and welcome back to Two Jagoffs. I am your host, Austin Cairns, and ladies and gentlemen, in today's episode of Two Jagoffs, we're going to be doing something a bit different today. Some may call this a blast from the past. We have a top 10 list for you. Now, I do apologize. There was a couple of inconveniences that happened over the last couple weeks. We had some scheduling issues with some interviews. Lucas actually came down with a cold, so Lucas couldn't come on and do a game show. My dad is currently out of town right now, so I am alone on the podcast here today, and I thought this would be a perfect time to bring back a top 10 list, and I thought this would be a great time to talk about some NFL as we are just weeks away from the NFL draft. So today on the podcast, I'm going to be giving my top 10 NFL teams with something to prove going into next season. What I mean by that, the criteria for this list, are these are teams that are good, great, or should be good, and they can't get over the hump. They can't make it to the big game. They can't win the big game. They can't do anything in the playoffs. We're going to talk about 10 teams today that I believe have the most to prove and are on the hot seat. A lot of their quarterbacks are, coaches, players. These are 10 teams that should be kicking into desperation mode going in the next season. Before we actually get into this top 10 list, though, I would like to shout out a couple of people and a couple of other shows that I am on. This past Thursday, we had the Austin Cairns show, my radio show that I host on WPPJ. And we had a bit of an April Fool's Day episode where my man Nicholas Brown and Lucas Coons came on. And they decided to co-host my radio show and then bring me on as a guest halfway throughout it. I thought that would be a pretty cool April Fool's episode because one is the co-host of Two Jagoffs, the other is the co-host of Steel City Commuters, and they both lumped together and they co-host the Austin Cairns show. It was an absolute fun episode. We talked about hockey and baseball and football, of course, the Steelers. We talked all Steel City sports. So that was definitely a radio show you don't want to miss. And if you want to hear more from Lucas, myself, and Nick all together, in 2 weeks' time on Steel City Commuters, Lucas Coons will be the first ever guest on Steel City Commuters. It's going to be an amazing podcast. I am very much looking forward to it. Of course, there's going to be another episode next week with me and Nick talking about some other sports news and other sports topics. But until then, don't go back and listen to some of our old episodes. We have some really, really good ones in the vault. Inside the Ring with Austin Cairns also has a new episode from this past week. And on Two Jagoffs, let's just say myself, Lucas, and my dad all reunited and talked about all the news going on in March Madness, in the NBA, the NHL, the MLB, and of course, in the NFL. With that all being said, though, with all those episodes being out on all platforms. Oh yeah, don't forget about the promo on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter, where I got absolutely demolished by my dad as I got tackled in the backyard of my grandma's house. My hip still hurts, by the way, from that. My hip actually has a little bit of a red mark, but that's okay. That's besides the point. So let's get into this top 10 list. Let's not waste any more time. And coming in first at our number 10 slot, the 10th team that has something to prove going into next season is the Los Angeles Chargers. And the reason why I was debating on having the Chargers on this list or not is because I understand that head coaching changes and injuries are an issue. But now that we have a full season of Jim Harbaugh in LA, this is going to be his second draft cycle. Justin Herbert should be back to full strength next year. With that all happening and them finally going out and getting an experienced running back, the most ball-dominant running back they've had since Austin Eckler. I'm talking about Najee Harris, who they recently brought in from the Steelers. With all that, plus their high explosive defense and their underrated offense, the Chargers should be making more noise than they are. But the reason why they're not is because they have the unfortunality of playing in the same division as the Kansas City Chiefs. They're in the AFC West. And not only are they in the same division as the Kansas City Chiefs, they're also in the same division as the young, up-and-coming Denver Broncos. So this Chargers team has a lot to compete with. Not to mention the Raiders are under new regime, which I highly doubt they're going to do anything next year, but still, that's something we have to take into account when we're talking about them. The Chargers are in a pretty bad spot. Not to mention how competitive the AFC North is. A couple of teams in the East could make some noise. The South is pretty pathetic, but the West, there's competition. And the Los Angeles Chargers needs to overcome that competition. Justin Herbert needs to stay healthy, and he needs to connect with his wide receivers. He's been in the league now for a few years, and he's got his contract extension, which is very much well-deserved. But until I can see the Los Angeles Chargers actually go out there and make a big move and win a big game, possibly against the Chiefs or possibly in the playoffs, they are on the hot seat, and they need something to prove. I'm not saying that Justin Herbert is. I'm not saying that Jim Harbaugh is. I'm not saying that any specific player or coach is. I'm just saying as an overall team, you're letting players age. Derwin James is not getting any younger. You already lost You're losing Joey Bosa. There's a lot of moving parts right now in the city of Los Angeles, and the Chargers, they're in desperate need of a win. And by win, I mean a playoff win. Now, coming into our number 9 spot, we have the Green Bay Packers. And the reason why I wanted to put the Green Bay Packers on this list is pretty simple. This is a team that should be explosive. Now, I'm going to give them some slack compared to some of the other teams on this list because I understand their division as well is very much more competitive than the AFC West. The NFC North is loaded with talent. You look at the Detroit Lions, who was one win from a Super Bowl away 2 years ago. And then last season, although they had a collapse in the playoffs, they were still arguably the best team in football all regular season. They got the Minnesota Vikings in that division, who although Sam Darnold is now a Seahawk, we still can't ignore the talent of Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. And then you look over at the Chicago Bears, who's also young and up and coming, with Caleb Williams leading the realm, now going into his sophomore season. Green Bay, though, when you look at Watson and Doubs and Jordan Love, and Josh Jacobs, this is a young team. This is a very young team. And Matt LaFleur is a very experienced head coach. He's worked with Aaron Rodgers, and he's worked with both Jordan Love. And we've seen the Packers win games. We saw them a couple of years ago demolish the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs, putting up 50 points on them. This is the team that we need to see again. And until we see that team, I'm sorry, I'm going to be on the fence with them, and I'm going to say that they have something to prove. They competed very well against their division rivals last year, nearly beating some of them. But they need to win the big game. And they have not done that just yet. They also need to stay healthy. I get it. Injuries killed him. We saw Malik Willis several times last year for the Packers, who actually looked pretty well. I was very happy to see him play. But the Green Bay Packers, they got a lot of work to do. And that is why they come in at number 9. Now, coming in at number 8, it absolutely pains me to put them here. But it's about time. It is the Arizona Cardinals. Now, for those who know me, I'm not a Steelers fan. I am a Cardinals fan. Reason for it is because of Larry Fitzgerald, arguably the greatest wide receiver of all time, at least the greatest wide receiver I have ever witnessed of all time. And this is a team that has been depressing to watch for years. Years and years and years of sorrow is what the Arizona Cardinals has brought myself and other Cardinals fans alike. Look, when I look at the Arizona Cardinals, they went out and had the number 1 overall pick back-to-back years. I'm sorry, not back-to-back years, excuse me. They went and grabbed a quarterback in the first round in back-to-back years. The second year was a first overall pick, which they used on Kyler Murray. The year before that, before their 3-13 season, they ended up getting Josh Rosen. And they gave up on Josh Rosen and Sam Bradford. They go to Kyler Murray and transition to him. We didn't even know if he was going to play football or not. Some people thought he was going to play baseball, for goodness sakes. And then he comes in. He looks amazing. Some people question his size. Some people will question his throwing ability. We see the Hail Murray. We see him take him to the playoffs. We see him go on that 8-0, 9-0 run that they had. And then they got absolutely beaten by the Rams. And they haven't been the same since. The Arizona Cardinals should be a good football team. They have a great young wide receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr., who they just got in the draft last year. The year before that, they got Paris Johnson Jr., who's practically having Mark Henry on your offensive line. They got Kyler Murray, a speedster quarterback who can get the ball downfield and extend plays and extend drive. They got James Conner, one of the most underrated not just running backs, but players in the entire NFL today. If he's healthy, that team is amazing. And then you go to the defensive side of the ball. Budda Baker, future Hall of Famer in my eyes. This team is loaded with talent, ladies and gentlemen. This team is loaded. But they can't win the big game. And I'm not even going to blame head coach Jonathan Gannon. I think Gannon has been a great pickup for us. I was never a fan of Cliff Kingsbury. I was never a fan of Steve Wilkes. I liked Bruce Arians, but I didn't like any of the Cardinals coaches that followed. Jonathan Gannon has probably been my favorite since then, and I believe he can actually lead this team to some wins. They went and got 7 last year, 7-10. They absolutely demolished the Rams early on in the year, who we thought could be a Super Bowl winner. They also beat the 49ers in dominant fashion. So it's not like the Cardinals are bottom of the barrel like they always once were. They can compete with the Rams and the Niners and the Seahawks. Both Seahawks games were relatively close. They were both within one score. But the Arizona Cardinals cannot get over the hump. They cannot get to the playoffs. They cannot even get a winning record. They lose games that they should win. That Vikings game last year, giving up that call, giving up that play, drawing the flag, and putting the Vikings in field goal range to kick the game-winning field goal, absolutely broke my heart. I wanted to throw my phone. That's just one of many examples of the Cardinals losing games that they should win. They're competing with these top-notch teams. They're competing with these playoff contenders and even with the Super Bowl contenders. But they can't win when it matters most. And that is why they're on the hot seat. I made a claim when Lucas was on the podcast a couple weeks back. I said the Cardinals need to at least get 8 or more wins, or I believe we should trade Kyler Murray. And I believe we should, because at this point, we're just wasting his time. He's going to come around for another contract cycle. He's going to be expected to be paid. Why do we pay Kyler Murray 2 big contracts and get 0 playoff wins out of it? At that point, you need to look in a different direction. I believe Murray can be the future guy in Arizona. I believe Kyler Murray can lead the Cardinals to the playoffs one day with Jonathan Gannon as head coach. But until I can see it, and until I can see a winning record, why should I even bother? I know 8 wins isn't a winning record. You'd need at least 9. But 8 is an improvement from last year. If I can see the Cardinals slowly improve, then I will cut them some slack. I understand the level of competition in the NFC. Look how loaded the NFC East is. Look how loaded the NFC North is. We can't count out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Atlanta Falcons in the South, not to mention the 3 teams that follow in the West as well. There's a lot of competition in the NFC. The NFC is the best conference in football. But the Arizona Cardinals can't win when it matters. That is why they come in at number 8. Moving into number 7. This is a team that has been consistently a playoff team over the last couple years, but they need a win but they need to get to a Super Bowl. And that is the Baltimore Ravens. When I look at the Baltimore Ravens and John Harbaugh, he's been in the league just as long as Mike Tomlin, coaching the Baltimore Ravens. It's like the longest tenured head coach in the NFL. And John Harbaugh has won Super Bowls. John Harbaugh has been in big game moments. John Harbaugh has been in heartbreaking losses, questionable games. He's a coach a lot of people believe should be on the hot seat next year. I don't believe so. I believe John Harbaugh is a great football coach. He makes very questionable decisions. He does a lot. He goes for 2 way too many times. He gambles a little too much. But when I look at the loaded roster that he has built and this team that he has, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, in my eyes, also a future Hall of Famer. I mean, this is a team that is scary. This is, in my opinion, the best team in the AFC North. But they can't beat the Chiefs. Can't beat the big dog in the playoffs when it matters most. And until I can see the Baltimore Ravens beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, or the Bills, or somebody, and make it past the AFC Championship and finally go to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow went there. Jalen Hurts went there. Why can't you, Lamar? I got to see this team go in the playoffs, and I got to see this team go far, which is why they come in at number 7. And likewise, number 6 is the Buffalo Bills. It's for the exact same reason. I'm going to be a little harder on the Bills, though. Josh Allen is now 0-4. 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs. We know the Ravens lost to the Bills last year, and the Bills lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs, but both of these teams have taken losses to the Chiefs in the playoffs. Both of these teams have taken losses to the Chiefs when it matters most. Sure, the Bills beat the Chiefs in the regular season. Congratulations, kumbaya. Do you want a pat on the back? Do you want a cookie? Like, what else do you... Like, that doesn't matter. You got to win in the playoffs. You got to win the AFC Championship. Get to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen just won his first MVP last year. I give him nothing but praise for that. I mean, Josh Allen is currently winning in life. He got a record-breaking contract. He married Haley Steinfeld, and he won an MVP. That man is winning at life. But until you can beat the Kansas City Chiefs and snap the 0-4 streak that is bestowed upon you, why should we trust the Buffalo Bills? They're the top dogs in the AFC East every year. They're a playoff favorite, but the amount of Super Bowl brackets that they have broken because they can't win against the Chiefs is just disgraceful. They need to go out there and win. Do you blame Sean McDermott? Who do you blame here? The Buffalo Bills need to win, and they need to win now. They come in at number 6. We're about halfway throughout this list now, and for anybody that's still listening, I do truly appreciate you for tuning in. Don't forget, we have new episodes every Thursday and every Sunday. We have a weekly episode on Thursdays, and usually either an interview, a game show, or some sort of fun episode like we're doing today on Sundays. Number 5 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. I know a lot of Steelers fans were waiting just to get to this one, and we are finally here. Listen, winning seasons doesn't mean you're successful. Winning seasons doesn't mean you're making a statement or an impact or anything. Winning a playoff game is what matters. Ladies and gentlemen, did you know the Pittsburgh Steelers have not won a playoff game since 2016? That was 9 years ago. 9 years ago was the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers have won a playoff game. That is disgraceful. The Pittsburgh Steelers got ramrodded in the playoffs the last couple times they've made appearances. Do we need to go back to that Chiefs one a couple years ago? I'm just saying. And the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers only answer to rebuilding this team after letting Justin Fields walk to the New York Jets, completely breaking and burning all bridges with Russell Wilson and allowing him to go to the Giants. Your only solution is Skylar Thompson and bringing back Mason Rudolph? And Mike Tomlin then goes to the press and says, yo, we trust him. We believe we can win with him, which is why we brought him back. My question to you is, Mike Tomlin, why would you get rid of him in the first place if you trusted him so much? If you believed he could be your guy, why did you get rid of him when you got rid of Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky? Why didn't you just roll with him last year? Sure, you got Russell Wilson for a bag of chips. Sure, you got Justin Fields for an apple. But why didn't you bring Mason Rudolph back? Why did you let the quarterback market go higher? Why did you let him go play with Will Levis in Tennessee, with the Titans? This makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. And Mike Tomlin is honestly kind of speaking out of his ass if you really think about it. Because he says one thing to the media and then he turns around and we see a different result on the field. Sure, you went out there and grabbed DK Metcalf and you're pairing up with George Pickens. That's going to be a scary wide receiver duo. But who's going to be throwing him the football? Congratulations, Steelers. You have 2 wide receivers who could run vertically. Who is going to throw him the football? And are they even going to have enough time to get the football out? This is a young offensive line. Mason McCormick, Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier. This is a young line. They still need another guard. They don't even have another guard. Not to mention, Mike Tomlin's number 1 claim every single year, ever since he took over the Steelers, which is something I love. I love hearing this from Coach Tomlin, is run the ball, stop the run. That's how we win games. First of all, who is running the damn football? Because Najee Harris ain't on the team anymore. You let him go to the Chargers. You got Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. You're going to draft someone? You have to also draft the quarterback. You also have to draft the guard. You have a lot of people you have to draft. So who are you going to go for? And also, stopping the run. Who's stopping the run? Almost a 40-year-old in Cam Hayward? Micah Fitzpatrick jumping up from the nickel? Or is it going to be T.J. Watt, who hasn't made a tackle since last Christmas? Do we need to forget about that playoff game that T.J. Watt had against the Baltimore Ravens? 63 consecutive snaps, not a single defensive tackle. He had a single pressure, 2 missed tackles, 0 sacks, 0 anything. He had -2 tackles in a playoff game against a division rival. Is that greatness? I don't believe so. Is that elite? I don't think so. The Pittsburgh Steelers have so much work to do going into next year, and until we can see change, and until we can see a playoff win and past the first round, maybe, just maybe, I'll put in the eggs in the basket for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But when I look at a Cleveland Browns team that has Myles Garrett and is possibly on the verge of getting an Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, and when I look at a Cincinnati Bengals team who has gotten better and better, and when I look at a Baltimore Ravens team who can run the ball all damn day, there is no way that I can go against any of those teams. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'll give them a winning season. I'll give them 9 or 10 wins. But outside of that, they got a lot to prove. They come in at number 5. Coming into our number 4 spot, we got the New Orleans Saints. I've been kind of questioning on where I should put this team on this list. I was thinking of putting them a little bit lower, but then I thought to myself, you know what? This team has had so much talent over the last few years. They brought in Chase Young. They brought in Alvin Kamara. At one point in time, they had Mark Ingram. Drew Brees was a quarterback for a very long time on this team. They then go out and had Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, and now they're on Derek Carr. And Derek Carr is even being questioned. They're looking in the Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe to possibly replace him. Not to mention the last 2 years, they drafted quarterbacks in the late rounds, that being Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler. The Saints have just been a mess. Not to mention that awful call that was made by head coach Dennis Allen last year mid-season, which ended up costing him his job the very next day. The New Orleans Saints, they have a lot to prove because when I look at the Saints, they started off 2-0 last year. This is a team that a lot of people believed could make a deep run in the playoffs. They damn near put up 80 points to start the year. Absolutely embarrassing the Dallas Cowboys. And then after that, it was just pew, pew, explosion. They sucked the rest of the year. And I would be a little bit easier on them if their division was tough. But they're in the same division as the Carolina Panthers, who are much, much worse, the Atlanta Falcons, who can't get their team figured out, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who is on an up and down slope every single year. So the Saints should be able to compete. The Saints should be able to go to head with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they're not because they don't have a quarterback, they don't have a coach, they don't have a wide receiver that can stay healthy, and their defense is obsolete. So until I can see more of that, the Saints have more to prove. They come in at number 4. Number 3 is the San Francisco 49ers. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Is Brock Purdy really going to be the guy? Is George Kittle really going to be the guy? Is Kyle Shanahan really going to be the guy? I'm just saying. Until we can see this team actually win a Lombardi, I think this is going to be a team that needs to prove something every year. It feels like every other year the 49ers get injuries. They get hit with the injury bug. It's like COVID or the flu. Like everybody goes down at your work around 1 month out of the year. A lot of call-offs. It's the same thing with the Niners. It's every other year. Oh, this player got an ACL injury. This player got a broken arm, broken leg. It feels like it's every other year with the 49ers. And last year was the injury bug year. Does that mean next year they're going to make the Super Bowl push? I mean, they made the Super Bowl with 2 different quarterbacks in the last 5 years. I mean, you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, who was once there, and then you look at Brock Purdy, who was there. And Purdy couldn't get the job done. Chiefs beat him. Porn star Jimmy couldn't get the job done. Chiefs beat him. So what is going to happen from here? You already lost Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders in the offseason. Christian McCaffrey is an amazing player. Absolutely love the guy. But he can't stay on the field to save his life. Again, is this another team of an example that has too much talent and can't translate to on-the-field play? Is this a team that's just been unlucky and unfortunate with injuries? Or is this just a team that we overhype every single year and they're not as good as they portray themselves to be? That's a question that we have to ask ourselves going into next year, which is why the 49ers are number 3 on this list, and which is why this is a team that we all should be closely monitoring as fans, as broadcasters, as anybody that's in the sports field. Pay attention to the San Francisco 49ers next year. This is going to be a make or break year for them. Similar story is number 2, the Miami Dolphins. I get it that Tua Tagovailoa has been on and off the field. He's had several head injuries, really serious ones at that, actually. And we wish Tua and his family nothing but the best. I absolutely hate seeing players get hurt and seeing players' careers being slowed down, shortened, or completely stopped and derailed because of an injury. It's an unfortunate thing that happens in sports. I've seen it live. I've called games where players had injuries myself. It absolutely sucks. No one ever wants to see an injury on either team. But when you have a guy in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, when you bring in Mike McDaniel, who was under the Shanahan tree, and keep in mind, Shanahan was once under the Belichick tree, so Mike McDaniel is already a coach that's expected a lot of. When you look at this team, this is a team that should be winning games too. We know the Buffalo Bills is an absolute juggernaut. We know the New York Jets has been slowly on the uprise over the last couple of years. You can never eliminate the New England Patriots with Drake May. But the Miami Dolphins can't win games either. They're another team that just can't win. Injury bug did kill him last year. I know Bradley Chubb was on and off the field. I know Tua was on and off the field. Even Waddle missed a couple games. But the Dolphins this year, They need to stay full strength. They need to stay healthy. And they need to make a push for the playoffs. I believe they can do it this year. With how bad the South is and the West and North both rebuilding, this is a year where we can see the Dolphins capitalize. Will they do so? Only time will tell. And number one, I don't believe this should surprise anybody. There's no honorable mentions on this list. I'm not doing that today. We're getting straight into the team that has the most to prove. And this has been the team that has the most to prove over the last 6 years. It's them Dallas Cowboys. When are they going to win a game? Dak Prescott has 2 playoff wins in his career? Come on. This is a team right here that should be winning in the playoffs every single year. Micah Parsons is a machine. CeeDee Lamb is a freak of nature. Dak Prescott is talented as can be. But Jerry Jones does not want to spend the big bucks. Jerry Jones does not want to make a move. He did go and get Joe Milton. Could we possibly see some of him next year? Both Cooper Rush and Trey Lance is gone. Rush is a Raven. Lance is a Charger. Might be a new direction. But Dak Prescott has just been absolutely depressing to watch. And again, until I can see something out of him, until I can see something out of Dak Prescott, the Dallas Cowboys are going to have something to prove. Washington has a young guy in Jaden Daniels who's going into a sophomore season who's done something that we've never seen out of a rookie before in NFL history by going to the NFC Championship. The Philadelphia Eagles has been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years. One of them they won, and the other, some argue they should have won. Both were against the Chiefs. Jalen Hurts is incredible. And the New York Giants, although they're bottom of the barrel, who knows what they can do? They still got some stars on their team. We can't ignore Kayvon Thibodeau. We can't ignore Malik Neighbors. We can't ignore Andrew Thomas. Those are some young, prosperous players that's going to be all pros and possibly even Hall of Famers down the line if they can continue with their level of play. The thing is with the Dallas Cowboys, though, I believe moving on from Mike McCarthy was a good move. I'm not a fan of the new coach hiring. Let's see what happens this year. If the Dallas Cowboys can make the playoffs, it's a success in itself since they didn't last year. But my goodness, these Cowboys need to do something. 24, 5+ years, whatever it is now, of not even being in a Super Bowl. They're supposed to be America's team. How are you America's team when you can't even be in America's biggest sporting game of the year? That is disgraceful. That is sad. Cowboys are number 1. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the top 10 teams with the most to prove next year. I know some people are probably going to ask me where are the Jets. I already knew the Jets are going to be the way they are, so I didn't put this on this list. I don't believe the Chiefs have anything to prove next year. I know they got beaten in the Super Bowl, but they were back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Mahomes already has 3 MVPs, 3 Super Bowl trophies, including a Super Bowl MVPs. He's already arguably the best quarterback of all time. So yeah, sure, they got absolutely demolished last year in the playoffs, but they don't have anything to prove. The Kansas City Chiefs, they'll be right back in the playoffs next year. They'll be right back competing for a Super Bowl next year. But the Dallas Cowboys, Dolphins, Niners, Steelers, these are teams that haven't seen it or won it in nearly decades. Some over a decade. So ladies and gentlemen, leave a comment down below. Do you believe we should do more episodes like this? I know this episode was a little shorter compared to some other ones that we have put out in recent memory. But unfortunately, I had to move some things around with interviews. Lucas went down with an illness. My dad was out of town, so I didn't want to be alone for a game show. So I thought it would be nice to bring back a top 10 list. This was something we did on the fly real quick. 100% last minute, so I do apologize if it seems rushed. But we have an interesting episode coming up this week because this Thursday, Lucas Carey's returns. Lucas Carey's did amazing last month. You absolutely loved Lucas taking over the podcast. So not only is he taking over the radio show this month, he will also be taking over 2 Jagoffs next week. So stay tuned and see what Lucas Coons has up his sleeve. Not only that, interviews will return next Sunday. We have a very special student athlete joining the show. So it's going to be nice to get some insight on his career and his plans and future going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of 2 Jagoffs. Don't forget to follow us on whatever platform you are listening on, and go check out our social media pages where we do promos, skits, and updates. That, of course, is on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. Until next time on 2 Jagoffs, we will see you all in the next one. Peace.